was Jesus a zealot? There is another popular book called Zealot that made that affirmation. How have you responded to that?
Right here.
Behold.
Yeah, Reza Aslan. Was Jesus a zealot? Let me make it nice and simple. No. And virtually no one thinks that. I mean, way back in the 1700s, Herman Samuel Reimarus argued this point. He dismissed everything magical about Jesus and said, well, what would be the most likely figure? And he looked at a few Jewish sources and said, they were sometimes rebels, so that's what he was. And he started with this thesis, excluded everything that didn't fit with it as a later accretion to the Jesus story, and said he was a rebel. So hardly anyone believed him, and hardly anyone has believed him ever since. And then Reza Aslan tried to resurrect this thesis. I mean, it falls down on so many levels. If you just approach it from a historical point of view, there are too many different lines of evidence pointing to Jesus using kingdom of God language in a really upended way. That it's really about the meek inheriting the earth, that it's about the peacemakers, it's about little children, it's about the smallest mustard seed. There are so many ways in which Jesus drives home in parables, in sayings in Mark, in sayings in Q, and then you can go to Paul's letters where it's clear that Paul's Jesus traditions already in the 50s are about love and humility and so on. All these lines of evidence point to the fact that Jesus was not a zealot looking for a political overthrow of the government. He thought that actually the real job of the Messiah was to enter into the fury of God. So I'm picking up sort of Albert Schweitzer's language at the beginning of the 20th century. Enter into the fury of God, bear the great suffering trial, judgment of the world, so that everyone might come into the kingdom of God. That really does seem like the only plausible account. He upends the notion of violent revolution.
Yeah, when you think about a zealot, and a zealot really was about overthrowing Rome violently, okay? It's actually the antithesis of what Jesus was. Jesus was a rebel, and there's no doubt that he was the bringer of a revolution at a social level, but it didn't have a single sword attached to it. And so that makes him an anti-zealot.